You're listening to the Business Consulting Buzz podcast at www.consulting-business.com. Welcome everyone to the Business Consulting Buzz Consulting Interviews. Today we have with us Aarni Heiskanen, a management consultant and internet entrepreneur that works with government and top companies in Europe. Aarni, every time we talk, I hear more exciting news about your business. So tell us more about your specialization and what kind of work you're involved in most recently.
Okay, thank you, Mike. It's great to be here. As you told, I'm a management consultant, and I started as an architect actually before becoming a consultant, and that's why I'm also involved nowadays with the real estate and construction industry, but also I have clients from the media, from retail and industry and so on. So I'm doing management consulting. My focus is on strategies and innovation.
Okay.
I also am a partner at Thinking Business, which is a software company, and in there our focus is on project portfolio management and the management of strategic assets like information systems, and we actually have software for that, and we have over 5,000 users now in 40 countries for that software.
Can you give us an example of the kinds of types of clients that you're working with, both on the consulting side as well as the companies that are using Thinking Portfolio?
Well, the companies using Thinking Portfolio are mainly large organizations. The criterion normally is that they have to have around, let's say, 200 projects or more ongoing development projects before they are actually getting benefits from our software. So those are large companies. We also have some public sector companies or organizations like the tax authority in Finland and
right.
and Finavia, which is takes care of all the airports in Finland, 25 airports and so on. And of course, many of our clients are international companies. So they have perhaps their headquarters in one country, but they also have business units all over the world. So that means that I often do my consulting in English, which is my second or third language actually.
Right, because you're based in Finland, but I know that you travel, a fair bit across Europe to different countries, both on the consulting side as well as meeting with people to talk about Thinking Portfolio and implementing that into their businesses.
Yes, and right now we have actually partner consultants in Sweden, in the Netherlands, and in France. So we have constant connections with these consultants.
Right. Okay. Good. So Aarni, let's go back a little bit, and I'd like for you to share a little bit and hear your story with everyone listening about how you got started in this business. You touched on for a second there that you were involved in architecture and construction. So take us back to how you got started in the business of consulting and how you kind of became a consultant.
Yes, I was an architect, and I actually did real architect's work for over 10 years. But also I was constantly interested and involved in IT, and it was the days when architects started using CAD systems, and that's why I became more like an R&D manager in the largest architectural company in Finland. And then we had a really bad economic situation in the early 1990s, and I started moving towards real estate and facilities management, and that in a way involved me more in business than in design. So that's why I got interested in business issues and the problems that these companies had. And then we had the internet boom in the late 90s. I was I partnered up with an internet startup and was involved in developing internet software for large companies in retail and in manufacturing. And also from that point of view, I got more involved in communicating with business people more than just engineers or designers. So and in 2000, when the internet bubble burst in the early 2000, I actually found myself doing more and more management consulting, and that's how I started in management consulting.
So you almost got, it sounds like, thrown into being a consultant. I mean, you were at a job, you went to then work with a startup, tough economic times, right? The internet boom kind of came, and obviously then it busted. So how did you actually, find yourself in a position to start consulting, to start working with companies and to help them to solve their problems? I mean, were you giving a lot of thought to becoming a consultant beforehand, or was it something that you just kind of woke up one day and said, hey, I guess I can help some people and charge them some money for this?
Yeah, maybe that's what happened. Actually, I never actually realized or imagined that I would become a management consultant, and that I didn't even know when I started my career in architecture that these kind of people existed. So, but I guess that my background was such that it actually helped a lot in figuring out how companies work and analyzing their operations and their strategies. And I don't know, it happened quite naturally. So I was moving from the operational level to more strategic level, and that happened gradually. So and somehow my clients, I guess they had good experiences with me, and they actually recommended me to other clients, and so it started.
Right. That's interesting because we received some questions for you in this interview, and one of them was asking what kind of qualifications and experience do you need to become a management consultant? And I guess just looking at, I know that you've received other certifications as you went along, but when you got started, you didn't have any, and you've now obviously gone on to develop a very, very successful career. But back then when you got started, would your answer to that question of what kind of certifications do you need to get started, I mean, I guess you've proven that you don't really need anything.
Yeah, it's a good question, because I guess even nowadays most management consultants come from other industries. They are not management consultants originally, so they have some background. And I guess that one good thing is to have some perhaps deeper knowledge in a certain industry or industries. For example, for me it was the real estate and construction, and I also got very involved in IT development. So I was able to help IT companies and IT departments of larger companies, because I knew about, I was not so involved in hands-on technology, but I knew how these IT assets were managed. So that's one thing that you might, if you have any industry background, it's a good start. And another thing is that if you have knowledge of in a certain area, for example, in customer relationships or in marketing or in manufacturing, you can use that knowledge in many industries. So that's what happened to me, I guess, because I also have had clients from printing industry or media and software development and so on. So I was moving away from my original industry and my original education.
Right. Okay. So first of all, I should say thank you to Sachin for that question. That was a good question. So Aarni, let me kind of dig into this a little bit deeper, because are you saying that when you got started, you focused on working with clients where you already had some experience, where you knew the industry, right, in construction, architecture, IT, and then from there, as you developed your skills and experience being a consultant, then you started to take on work from clients in other industries?
Yes, that's right. I guess that I have not really specialized very deeply in one issue or one area. So I have been more like I have been very good, I guess, in interviewing people, getting information, analyzing it, and drawing conclusions. And my clients have thanked me for being very systematic and very analytical. So that's one thing that is one feature that I guess has helped me a lot. So so that's if you have certain skills, you can develop them further regardless of the industry.
Right. Okay. So now if we kind of move along this journey that you were going on, so you started to offer consulting services. How did you actually get your first clients?
I had actually two ways of getting clients. Of course, the first one was that I already, since I had been in one industry for years, I already had connections there, and I knew some people who were very open to new ideas and wanted to develop their companies, and they actually wanted to have somebody from outside, so to speak. When I was no longer an employee of a consultancy in architecture, I was in a way an outsider, so I could actually help contractors and engineering companies and so on. So that was one way of getting clients, using my old existing connections and
right.
getting referrals from there. The other way was that from in late 1990s, I actually partnered up with an internet startup who was they were making software, and they already had good connections through their people. So I was able to get totally new clients from totally new industries through this partnership.
Okay, so Aarni, now it's time for today's action bite, and I need to cue some fancy music, which I don't have ready for today's interview, but I need maybe a little drum roll or something. So today's action bite, let's dig into this. You're gonna share a little bit about your approach of partnering with other companies, setting up kind of, maybe we can call them a strategic alliance or strategic relationships. Can you share kind of your process, or how the approach that you would recommend people should use to do this so that it works for them?
Yes. When I started as left my original company, I started reading newspapers, and I saw that there were companies looking for trying to hire people for certain functions or certain tasks. And I just happened to see one company, and I thought that perhaps they are trying to hire a person, but maybe if I would suggest them that instead of hiring somebody, why not use a consultant? And and that was one technique that they got interested, and actually they wanted to meet with me, and we discussed, and then we actually started the relationship, business relationship pretty soon. So it was one way of first studying what's going around and what kind of knowledge and information people are looking for and what kind of skills they are looking for. And then you can possibly approach them. And that's still a valid technique. And nowadays, when you have the internet, you can very easily study companies and see where they are going and if they have that kind of knowledge or skill already, or if they are looking for it. So that's how I got my first very good partnership. Right. And from there on, when I was able to show that by partnering with me, the other company was getting benefits that they could also pass on to their clients. So it was a win-win-win situation.
Right. Aarni, so let me just stop you there for a second, so we can maybe break this down into steps for people listening. So what would be step one? What would be the first thing that people need to do if they want to try and set up some sort of a partnership, a strategic partnership to help them to land clients and grow their business? What would be the first thing? Would it be, to connect it to identifying, or what would you suggest is the first step people need to take?
Well, of course, first of all, you have to know what you have to offer. So what kind of, what you are good at, and what is there something new that you can offer, something new to the partner, and then be very open-minded about who to contact, because it might be from, let's say, from a medical industry, or it might be another consultant, it might be an IT company. There are many alternatives. So maybe you just start scanning and questioning, and if you already have some connections or contacts, I recommend that you use them, of course.
So how do you actually go about finding the types of companies? So if someone, let's say someone's listening to this, or we can take an example here, Smriti, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name right, but Smriti is in the field of audit, data, analytics, consulting. So how would once they figured out, okay, this is what they're offering to the marketplace, these are the problems that they help to solve, how would you then suggest that they go about finding companies to work, to partner with?
Well, of course, it's always easier if somebody always already knows you or knows your friends, so to speak.
Okay.
So I would first try to find some other companies or persons who know the market, for example, and then if that's not possible, then I would go to the internet and go, for example, those jobs announcements, for example,
right?
And see what kind of
a job site or something.
Yeah,
you mean?
Yeah.
Right.
If companies are interested in something that relate to you somehow, then it might be a signal that they are having a need for that. So that's one thing. Right. And of course, then there are these special events, for example, and there are many associations, for example. Mm-hmm. If you can offer some association in their meeting, for example, I have used this, that associations often like to have some presentations or program that they can present to their members. They have, and if you are able to get a chance to present yourself and what you do and what kind of benefits you might have to offer, that's one that would be a very good way to contact new people.
Okay, so really what you're talking about here, I mean, the whole goal of this is, so just if we go back and review the steps. So one is figuring out really what it is that you're offering and what kind of problems that you solve, then trying to get in front of the potential people that have that need or that have that problem that you can help to solve. And if you don't have an established network that you can connect with directly, you might try something like LinkedIn to see if maybe someone that knows somebody who can introduce you. or look at job sites to see if companies are hiring for someone with your specific skill set. And then even as a consultant, you could approach them, and even if they're looking for a full-time person or a contract worker, you might just be able to have a conversation with them to offer your services. And if that fails, or another option you're suggesting is to look at networking events or associations, organizations where you might be able to do a talk or to offer your services, with the whole goal of really leveraging the the marketing dollars and the brand that other companies have, so that you can kind of offer your services through them or help them.
Yeah, because many times these companies already, they have established connections to hundreds of clients or customers, and and so you don't have to market to those hundreds of clients if you have a good partner. That's
definitely, yeah. Okay, and I've actually just seen that at work. I was coaching a new consultant the other day who's actually very experienced in the field of marketing, has worked as a director of marketing at several organizations in North America, but is fairly new to consulting. And he's set up an arrangement with a printing establishment to offer his services to all of their clients that come in. So that's just a great way to leverage, their experience and network.
And you might also have an idea of what kind of a new offering you are able to offer together with your partner. So you can create something completely new, some competitive edge.
Right, exactly. Okay, those are great tips. All right, so Aarni, I know time-wise, I want to keep this moving here, but there's still a few big questions here that I want to go over. One of them is, again, I want you to kind of think back a little bit, and what would be the most important decision or action you took, back in the day, that when you think about it now, that was really critical to taking your business to the level of success that you're enjoying these days? Is there one single thing or a couple of things that you did that, looking back, was just really critical to your success?
Well, many consultants try to think that they are great as individuals, but quite early I discovered that it was good to have partners, consulting partners, and actually the Thinking Business company that is now that created the Thinking Portfolio actually started out as a consultancy. We had actually 6 consultants. We joined forces. We were all management consultants and the other guys were focusing more on IT consulting. So it was when we just got together, we really understood that we could help each other and for example, when there was a client who needed more, let's say, more brain power or more muscle power than just one consultant, it was very easy when you already had these guys. So it was maybe that you don't think that you can be alone, to accept that you can actually have other people work with you, and that's was one of the reasons why I guess that I'm successful.
Right. So for you, partnering has been a really big factor in your success, which is interesting because a lot of consultants, would hear what you just said, partnering with 6 other consultants, and would see it as potential competition. Why get so close with the people that might be competing? But it sounds like you were able to find, that even if there were some similarities or crossover between what you guys were doing, that there was enough differences that you were still all able to benefit from cooperating.
Yeah, that was definitely so, and it doesn't matter even if you have competing competencies. It doesn't really matter, because I don't think that this is a zero-sum game. So actually, you can offer more, and many large clients actually require that you have more more people involved just because their projects are a bit larger than they are perhaps in smaller companies.
Right. Okay. So Aarni, another question here, and this one I was trying to get to it before, from Smriti, and the question is, what does it take to convert your potential clients to a real one? Everything seems to go okay until the client has to secure a budget or convince the board that seeking help from a professional might be the best thing. So I don't get a simple yes or no. Is patience the key? What's your take? So what would you say to Smriti?
I would say that, well, if you're just waiting for the client to call back, they never will. So I would suggest that you'd be very active. And if you already have one person or a team of persons who are already committed, I would suggest that you help them as much as possible to sell inside their company or to sell sell and market your offering, because if they feel that they get personal benefit from using you, that's one very important factor, because people like to be successful and look successful, and if you can somehow guarantee that they will become successful because of using you, that's a very good point. And also try to minimize the risk, so that, for example, I've often used, let's say not free, but for a very reasonable price, some initial offering, some small task that they will I can show that I can do this, and then they get acquainted with me. They know who I am, and when they already committed in one small thing, it's easier to sell bigger projects after that.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, Aarni, that you just shared there. Is the whole idea of lowering the entry or the barrier to entry, and making the whole, because we all know that when it comes down to it, all the business the business that we're in is all about relationships. And so what's the easiest way to build those relationships is to, first of all, prove to someone that you can do what you say you're going to do, lower the risk for them. And as you just shared right now, right, a great way to do that is, instead of trying to pitch a very large project or something that's going to cost them a lot of money or take a lot of time, start off with a little, with something smaller, but still something you can show a result so that they can start to feel comfortable working with you. And then once you've done that, it'll be much easier to sell, a larger project after that.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, great. All right, Aarni. Well, I think time-wise we're getting there. So my last question, we want to be doing. I'd like to interview many more people like yourself that have achieved success, as consultants and are doing interesting things that that our readers can learn from. So, who else would you suggest that I should interview?
Well, I guess you already probably have interviewed, but Ian Brody.
Yeah. Okay. Ian's a good guy,
Yeah,
and he's on my list for sure. But okay. And any other names? Anyone else?
Well, I can maybe I would have to consider.
You can think about that.
I would
think about
I must think about that. But Ian was the one that I already had on my list. So
yeah,
that's
for sure. Okay, and I'm in touch with Ian, so and I'll definitely be getting. Trying to persuade him to do this, which I'm sure he's a great guy, so I'm sure that'll work out. Well, Aarni, thank you for taking the time to do this interview. Really do appreciate it. And let me before we end off here, if people want to get in touch with you, if they have questions, if they want to find out more about what you're up to and and your businesses, what's the best way for them to reach you or to connect with you?
Well, my website is aepartners.fi. So that's but nowadays it's in Finnish. So there is also a link to my international site, which you can find there, and of course email is maybe the easiest way, especially if you're not in the same time zone.
Right.
So,
okay. So people can go to aepartners.fi.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's maybe the easiest way.
All right, great. Well, Aarni, thanks again for doing this interview. I really do appreciate it.
Well, it was a pleasure.
For more interviews, articles, and resources on consulting, visit Business Consulting Buzz at www.consulting-business.com.